Jesse interview. Okay.
So once this video goes live and people will probably start discussions and like a heated debate, we would love for you to follow that conversation and
Wow, this room is echoey.
report back to us what your findings are.
Beautiful. That's true. They don't always listen because Kaiten is still not back. That's true. Why not Kaiten brought back? Oh, look at the little baby! Oh my god, I did not see this when I played. Oh, he's so adorable. Oh, I did not see it. Mama Todd was absolutely losing it over these alpacas and llamas. He was sitting next to me. Oh yeah. Oh yeah, what a bop. So good. This is more exploring than I did. Because I forgot to do it until literally the last second. And it was by then it was too late. So I'm actually seeing a lot of things for the first time this cycle. Spent too much time in G pose. What? You could go in here? I thought it was locked. Dude. I have footage of myself standing right outside the door and I thought you couldn't go in. Opens. Are you kidding me? I'm like, well, it's locked. I need a key. Maybe Jesse had the key. Who knows? They locked me out. They're like, no, don't let Zepla in here. Wow, it's a pretty. So colorful. Wait a minute. Is he drinking beer? Is that okay? One of them had a little taco. Just watched your Viper video. Your opinion on Viper is it goes brrr. Yes, exactly. That pretty much sums it up. That is exactly correct.
Hello, Final Fantasy XIV friends.
So
Thanks for tuning in
Jesse-
to the Jesse Cox DAWNTRAIL Spectacular. I and many other great folks in the Final Fantasy XIV community got to experience the
Jesse was sitting to my left. I was just so hyped about this.
newest expansion
He was
a
next to
little bit
me.
early on the media tour. And I'm here to share with you everything I
computers.
learned, some things I don't understand, and a mystery or two that I cannot wait to deep dive into once the game is out. Also, I got to interview Naoki Yoshida, producer, director, the man of Final Fantasy XIV, and let me tell you, I definitely 100% used that time wisely. Now, if you're wondering, Jesse, why are we looking at little JC in different level 100 gear? Well, it's because I didn't really know where to put it, and I only have 45 minutes total that I'm allowed to show you, and someone has to represent the short kings and queens in 14. It's a Lala world, y'all. You just playing in it. But it's also a great way to show off some of the new graphical elements in the game, especially the way fabric looks.
Yes.
Obviously, this isn't Jesse recording at home quality, but it's good enough to notice the way each piece of cloth has this sort of different look and feel and texture. Some of it looks silky, some of it felty, some of it leathery,
Yes.
in ways it really never has before. And I noticed that
Yes.
instantly. Pay attention to the detail on your favorite
See,
job
it's
as
shiny.
it shows up. I was blown away by that. And I think everyone noticed at the fan fest and in the live letters and all the different things we've seen since the medals as well, the buckles and the different hooks and things. You'll notice on almost all of these job outfits that they included little tiny metal trinkets everywhere. They're definitely trying to show off the new graphics. Also, speaking of new and flashy, the music you're listening to right now is from DAWNTRAIL. And the music montage from the beginning was...
Yeah, was that Viera me running by? Let me say, I don't know if this comes across in my job armor video, because I think the quality of the video was not... I mean, it was all right. But I think I really tried to, in G-Pose, show it so you could look at the different materials like Jesse's talking about, like silk, leather, this velvety materials are so gorgeous on the armor. Like, the armor has never looked more beautiful. I honestly, you just gotta see it. You gotta see it
as well. When I first arrived at the event, I was the first person there because I'm that nerd. And when I walked in, some of the team were there and we started talking about the music that was playing in the venue. Because it was blasting some horn-heavy zoot suit number that I was thinking, this is a weird vibe for a media event, but like, I dig it. And then suddenly, I heard the DAWNTRAIL motif and I asked them, is this from the game? And of course, they do that coy thing where they're like, we don't know. So when we got a chance to sit down and play and we loaded into the world, the first thing I heard was that song and immediately was like, yeah, this is gonna be fun. And honestly, that's my big takeaway from the entire event. Everything I got to play, the whole experience.
I did not expect the background music in the main city to be so jazzy.
Was this expansion is the dawn. They want it to be light. They want it to be fun. They want to start a brand new adventure. We literally came out of Existential Dread, the expansion, facing mortality and existence, and coming out the other side. Even the toughest guy shed a tear or two, and that was awesome because you know the emotional vampire in me was eating that up. But according to Yoshi-P, as I was saying, it's time to get away from all that stuff for a little bit. The real world is a mess right now, and I'm pretty sure the devs were like, we want to bring a little joy to people, and that's what this expansion's going for.
Thank God.
It is Final Fantasy, so I'm sure we're in for some kind of twist at the end. But for now, the experience they want to bring across in this is an adventure. Something to make you really excited about playing Final Fantasy XIV again, and the start of what could potentially be a new story arc.
And one thing I'm looking at it again, there's just so many little details. Even though I've spent time carefully looking at each one of these armors, there's these special little details. Like you'll see the reflectivity of a gem.
And if you're like, whoa, what do you mean potentially? Well, that was a question that was brought up when there was a group Q&A at the media event. And thankfully, I was in a group with not only just people who were really into the mechanics of the game, which, by the way, I am not. Go watch the hundreds of other videos from people who really know the mechanics, who are really going to deep dive and nail that. There are many, and they deserve your views. But thankfully, there were some lore and story people there with me, and we had a lot of questions about where this was all going and what they were looking forward to doing. And the thing they reminded us of is that when they started making Final Fantasy XIV: A Realm Reborn, they didn't have a 10-year story arc in their mind. They had A Realm Reborn, and then they had Heavensward, and then they had Stormblood, and they left all these threads there that they could pull on, which they did in Shadowbringers and then Endwalker. We look back and we see a 10-year story arc, but that's not how it started, and that's not how this is starting. Though going back to the old Final Fantasy twist that I mentioned, Yoshi-P did specifically say that whatever happens at the end of this, based on the reaction of the fan base, that's going to determine the direction they go forward into future expansions. I don't particularly know what that means in regards to the end of DAWNTRAIL, but I have a feeling.
Yeah, so wait, I'll let him finish this sentence.
Our summer vacation's gonna get real weird, and honestly, I'm hoping for weird.
So Yoshi-P said that they have a few different ways they can go from here. Because the question he was asked was like, is this going to be the start of a whole new arc? How long will this arc be? If so, and Yoshi-P said, well, we're going to see how people respond to the end of 7.0 story. And if they like it, you know, we'll go down path A. But basically, we have several options ready to go with where we're going to go from here, and they're going to guide the ship based on what players like a lot and maybe what players don't like.
I want some new terrible big bad yet. I want a mystery. I want something we're going to be spending the rest of the year like, what the hell is going on?
Yeah,
What is this?
yeah.
I want that. And there are some things that are a mystery in this game that we'll get to later. If you're curious about the media tour and what we had access to, I can give you a little rundown. We had a bunch of computers, a bunch of chairs. We all sat in it and drank mocktails and ate chicken and plantains and empanada.
He's probably... I bet Jesse remembers the mocktails because he's sitting at the computer and I'm sitting at the computer directly to the right of Jesse. And what does he see out of the corner of his eye for the entire media tour? Me getting up to get another mocktail again and again. Like literally every half hour, me and Zeems, by the way, we went hard on those mocktails. They were like, it was a sugary little cup filled with this juice and it was so good. And I was just... like every time he looks over at me, I'm like chugging another one.
Nadas, you name it. I watched people just gorge on nachos. It was great. It was.
Oh.
Mute.
Me? Can't be me. Yeah, that must be someone else that he was thinking of that was also.
Good time. Game-wise, which I'm sure you care way more about, obviously all the jobs and the different major changes to Ninja, Monk, Dragoon, Astrologian, and Black Mage. Let me stress again, I do not play any of those jobs with any...
Yeah, it must have been Todd. Yeah, Todd went hard on those nachos, dude. Yeah.
Ounce of skill, I just leveled them up to max level and move on with my life. So please, go watch many of the other videos that are out there that I guarantee will deep dive into those and what's different. Give them views, let them know that Jesse sent you. We got to mess with the new die system.
That's really
which
sweet of
I'll
Jesse
include
to encourage you to go and watch the other media tour videos.
some of that here in a sec. And then we got to...
Don't worry, I'll watch them all.
Or some of Tyrol, including the main town we're in right now.
All of them.
Tuliolalo? Boy, I don't know how to say that. For the life of me, I don't know why they decided to make these names Rogan and plus hard, but here we are. We also got to explore the Amazon-style zone, Kazama-uka, however you would say that. And then Urkapacha, or Yorkapacha, which is basically Fantasy Peru, from what I can tell. There's a Machu Picchu-like area in the zone video that I showed you earlier. That's from this. And while the first zone contained the one dungeon we did get to run, Ihui Katumu? I told you, I'm gonna have a hard time with this. The second zone, the one with the mountains and Machu Picchu, was the one I spent most of my time in. It was certainly interesting, and yes, I'm going to keep teasing that because there's some cool stuff there. And we will, you guessed it, get to that later. As for the characters and NPCs and major story beats, aside from the dungeon, I really got nothing but speculation for you. They straight up removed all the dialogue from the game, and either you got an NPC saying, "Welcome to Dawntrail," or Final Fantasy VIII Squall, ... There was also no visible gear to look at in item slots to see stats or whatever. It was just little packages, and the Disciples of Land and Hand weren't even available.
Yeah.
So, you know, don't get too jelly about me getting a chance to play early. Everything I saw, you're about to see. Speaking of seeing, so many of these armor sets have eye patches. Have you noticed that? I really wanted a Corsair job, and I don't know if we're gonna get one, but they certainly went with pirate cosplay will do. I guess if there was one.
They gave us a lot of eye patches, circlets, things like that this time. And I honestly think it's to help out us bunnies, because now I think not all, but a big number of the job armors you can wear as a full set, even as a Viera.
One thing I really wanted to stress to you is that there was just so
like here's a ribbon
much
one,
to look at.
which
They
you can
crammed
use.
lots of great little vignettes of NPCs around the world. Great use of the new graphic system with a lot of foliage and different water flowing, light shining angles, and it was beautiful. Not to mention the Mesoamerican art, and even though I didn't get a picture of it, because, you know, maybe I forgot to record, some of those stone carvings are awesome. They give big Warhammer Lizardmen vibes. I'm telling you, there was a carving actually really near to where this is being recorded that looked like a bunch of skinks chatting it up with Mazamundi, who is basically a giant magic frog. It was wild looking. I loved it. You'll have to find it when you have a chance to play.
Does anyone know what he's talking about? Because I didn't see a giant magic frog.
Speaking of playing, another question that was brought up to the group was about the more single-player nature of Final Fantasy XIV and how some people felt that Shadowbringers and Endwalker leaned a little too heavy into the single-player experience. Yoshi
Some people. Is that the same people that were eating all the nachos?
Yoshida responded by saying that the biggest
my
problem with MMORPGs is the barrier of entry.
Oh my god.
People are afraid to play with others. Maybe it's because some other MMORPGs are DPS meter toxic fests and the vibe is totally different from Final Fantasy XIV.
Oh my
Who
God.
knows? But interacting with others is sometimes daunting. So he said the team wanted to make it so you can play by yourself and slowly over time ingratiate with the community in the game and play with other players eventually. They believe they've done this and that now they're going to start focusing on multiplayer activity.
Nacho eating single player enjoyer.
I don't know what the timetable is on this. I
Also mocktail drink.
assume we'll start seeing a lot of that in the 7.1, 7.2, that kind of thing. But they said that's the plan, and I'm pretty excited for that. I guess what I'm trying to say is this expansion seems packed full of potential greatness. And while I have no real knowledge of how we'll feel come August, I have a firm belief that if any team can knock it out of the park, it's good old Creative Business Unit 3. And since I did promise you some glam shots, here's some of the new dye system. Obviously,
Yeah.
I didn't spend a lot of time deep diving this as some of the other people at the event did.
Are the people that did the deep dives also the ones that were eating the nachos and that were complaining about the single player and were drinking all the mocktails also?
Again, go watch the amazing creators who are out there who definitely spent more hours on this, and I'm talking hours. There was
I was literally doing this for hours.
some people who this was half their day just messing with the dye system.
That was me. I was the only one who did that. Dude, it could be anyone. It could be anyone that was eating those nachos, man.
Me, all I really wanted to do was
anybody.
one, create the assassino, which I feel like I did, and then mess around with some of the cool colors here, and then just see how easy it was to use. And spoiler, it's pretty easy. It's exactly how you think you'd use it. And two,
Man, it just sounds like I was such a degenerate at the event. Based on this description. It just sounds like I was in absolute degen mode. Like, I'm sitting there chugging these sugary drinks. I'm like gorging on nachos, and I'm sitting there in G pose for literally 3 hours.
wanted to create a realm outfit
Like,
from
hey,
the best game
man.
ever made, Final
Man, I hope they make this game more multiplayer, man.
Fantasy VI, which, now that I think about it, I really hope the job quest for Picto involves drawing Ultros, because that would be hilarious. Anyway, as you can see, I tried to mess around with it, and then I realized in-game realm colors
welcome.
and
You're welcome.
Amino realm colors are different, so I just wanted to see if I could pull off both, and I think I did. It was fun, but I definitely had other things to do that day. And now, question.
This is so funny. This is like, I definitely had other things to do that day. Some people clearly didn't have anything else to do that day. Which is true. I didn't.
With Yoshi-P.
You said today, and you said in previous live letters and
my
at
God, that's hilarious.
FanFest that the player base has grown dramatically in the last 10 years. And
Oh, it's kind of hard. I might need to turn up the volume on here. Can y'all hear him okay? Let me turn it up a little bit. It seems a little low. Okay, let me know how that is.
more players try out the game for the first time and try to experience Final Fantasy XIV and try
that better?
to catch up to their friends who are already playing. There's a pretty big barrier of entry to get through 500 plus hours of a game, or to get through the overwhelming opening in order to get to their friends. What advice would you have for them, or what kind of suggestions, or maybe what you and the team are doing to make that easier?
そうですね。なんかすごく
This is a good question about the barrier to entry.
っていて、ただやっぱりファイナルファンタジー14のここまでの成長
What is this graph
まあ
of?
DC さんもそうですけど、やっぱりストーリーを体験して、まあいろんなその衝撃だったり。
that day.
Let me see.
And now, questions with Yoshi-P.
You said today.
Oh, it's
you
the number
said
of millions
in
of players.
previous live letter.
Okay.
Get through the overwhelming opening in order to get to their friends. What advice would you have for them? Or
Players
what kind
in
of
millions.
suggestions,
Thanks, chat.
Or maybe what you and the team are doing to make that easier.
そうですね。なんかすごくそこは悩ましいと僕自身も思っていて、ただやっぱりファイナルファンタジー14のここまでの成長、まあ JC さんもそうですけど、やっぱりストーリーを体験して、まあいろんなその衝撃だったり、まあ時にはお涙をしてくれたりっていうところを僕もよく動画で拝見しているので、その体験あってのストーリー体験あっての14だっていう思いは僕自身すごくこだわってきたからこそまず強いです。
It is definitely difficult to address here because it is thanks to the story that Final Fantasy XIV has grown to such a large audience. And I believe, Jesse, you too, you've experienced the different elements throughout the narrative, sometimes that are shocking, sometimes that are emotional. And we've seen your reaction videos as well. So,
We've seen everybody's
we are
reaction.
very particular about the story that we conveyed through
You know
Final
what?
Fantasy.
After watching these interviews, I'm now completely convinced that there is not a Final Fantasy XIV video that my man Yoshi-P has not seen.
14.
He's seen it all.
僕、まあ、ちょっ
He's
と
seen
余談で
everyone.
すけど
He's probably here right now.
覚えてるのがシャドウリンガーズをクリアした時のビデオで大きくこううなずきながらエンドクリスト流れた時に拍手をしてくれてるんですよ。で本当に作ってきてよかったなって思っていて、
There's some you shouldn't see,
やっぱ
but
り
he does.
感動とか
He
そ
does.
のそういう体験っていうのを味わってもらいたいっていう思いがまだ僕の中で結構強い。
And kind of going off tangent, but we remember a video that you've done once you finished Shadowbreakers and the end credits were rolling and you were nodding like really big and just clapping and we remembered that and
Yoshi-P really called out everybody. He really did. He really called out every creator. He's like, oh yeah, so maybe less story, but I seem to recall you enjoyed this story quite a lot. I have seen that video where you were nodding and you were very emotional, and I mean, we have the video evidence that you, Jesse.
you know,
Really?
it warmed our hearts though. Yoshida felt that it was really worth making a story up to this
It
point.
was
So
worth it.
There are elements where we still want the players to go through and experience some
We
of
gotta
those
go.
moving
They gotta go
moments
through it. Yep.
in the story, and
Gotta go
that
through it.
feeling still remains rather strong.
でも、まあ、ハイデリンゾディアク編がエンドウォーカーで一回完結したので、実は 6.1 から 6.0 までを全てスキップして 6.1 から新しいプレイヤーが始められるための仕組みっていうのは実は用意はしていて、あとは僕がゴーサインを出すかどうかだけっていうところまで準備はしてました今回。
Maybe you could
That
incentivize
said,
New
of
Game
course, we
Plus.
just concluded a 10-year saga with the Hylian Zodiac saga.
Right.
And the team was making preparations on having a system where players can skip all the way to patch 6.1 and just not have to go up to the story through 6.0, so that new players wouldn't have to worry about going through such a large amount of content. And the team was just waiting for whether or not Yoshida would give the green light.
ただ結果的には今回もゴーサインは出さずに、今まで通りにしたのはやっぱり世界中たくさんの皆さんが14のストーリーはいいよ、ストーリー以外からやってみてほし
It's a story
い
game.
って言
Story-based
って
game.
くださってるのをもう少し続けてもいいかなって思ったところが大きくて、やっぱりストーリーあっての14だし、でもだからこそその新しく始めるプレイヤーの皆さんに言いたいのはレベルキャップだけとかだったらいつでも追いつけるゲームデザインになってるので、追いつこうっていう心理で遊ぶんじゃなくて、ドラマを見てる感覚でストーリーをまず楽しんでもらえれば気がついたら追いついてるよ、だから焦らないでっていう話をまだ今はさせてもらうのでいいかなって思ってたりします。
But as you
Okay.
can see, Yoshida has not given the green light for a system like that, and we are going to maintain what we have been doing up to this point, because there's just so many people who have thought highly of the story of Final
They
Fantasy
thought about it.
14
They don't
around
wanna
the
do it
world,
yet.
and so many people have thankfully recommended their friends to try out Final Fantasy 14 because of the story. So Yoshida feels that, well, I think we can still kind of maintain that for now. And 14 is what it is because of its robust story. So for
Right.
new players, I think the suggestion would probably be, we understand that the level cap is 100 and it may seem like a lot, but don't think of it as like, oh, I need to catch up right now. Like, you can go at your own pace. If you follow along the main line of the story, your level will go up naturally, and by the time you get through most of the story,
I think
your
that he's probably not going to address this problem until it becomes truly impossible for people to catch up in a reasonable time frame. I think Yoshi-P saw a bunch of new people join the game in Shadowbringers and saw that plenty of people were able to go through the entire story and catch up. That just started. And because of that, I think that it's made him less likely to want to add in some kind of a built-in skip, because you can buy a skip, you can do New Game Plus if you want to. So it seems like not a high priority.
your level will have already caught up. So kind of like you're watching a drama or something. Like, just take it at your own pace.
ただ最後に言っとくけど毎回悩んではいる
But I do want to emphasize one last time that every time it is a struggle whether or not we allow for that.
Zepla, I asked you about DAWNTRAIL. Will there be a new gameplay feature or just what we got the last 10 years? There should be a new gameplay feature that I'm expecting. The new large-scale group content should be something new, because the first time they released it, it was Eureka, which was totally new. The next time they added a large-scale group content, it was also totally new. It was inspired by Eureka, but it was its own enchilada. And this time we're expecting a different one, and so I'm expecting it too to be its own unique thing. And then the next thing that I'm expecting to be a new gameplay feature is the whatever they're gonna add to Deep Dungeon. Now this might be a cope, but they have said that they're gonna add new stuff to Deep Dungeon, which is really interesting to me. And I don't know if anybody has asked Yoshi-P about it. I haven't gone through all the interviews yet, but I would have definitely asked about what are you talking about. It's not a new Deep Dungeon. What's the new feature for Deep Dungeon? Because Deep Dungeon is some of the most promising and best content in the game, in my opinion. And they've announced as like a headlining feature of DAWNTRAIL, something new for it. So if you found an interview where somebody's asked him that, maybe drop it in my Discord and at me so I can get.
All right, let's talk jobs. While I thought Pictomancer was going to be the one I clicked with, Viper's the one that got me, but it's deceptive. As you can see on the screen right now, I'm highlighting some buffs that you can get. There are 4 rotations, 2 being AoE, 2 being single target. But for simplicity's sake, because that's where I'm at mentally, Hunter's Instinct is an enhancement that increases your damage, and Swift Scaled increases your speed. You also have an enfeeblement called Noxious Gash, which increases damage dealt to the enfeebled monster.
Actually, it's Noxious Nash. No, I'm just-
The good news is, if you just stick to your basic single target combos, in this case, my buttons 1 and 2, you're gonna get all 3 up in no time, and you will
Yeah.
continue to keep them up if you just keep
Press the
doing that.
buttons.
The part that I didn't really understand was you have 4 combos, and then your super freak out reawaken combo. And I mean, obviously, when you fill your gauge, use reawaken, right? That seems simple.
Yeah.
But I didn't really understand the optimal order for different combos, let alone what your best opener was. It was pretty confusing for me. I'm just gonna end up watching a video from someone who actually understands it. But to be honest, I don't think most players care about playing optimally. In fact, you're doing so much and attacking so quickly with Viper
True.
that I don't think anyone's even gonna notice. I love
Well, with the awakened state, what was really helpful for me is that they name the ability stuff like first legacy, first other thing, second legacy, second other thing. So you can actually just press the ones that are as they're listed in order. I think there's a main button and then an OGCD, another main button and OGCD, first, second, third, fourth. And so it's the way the skills are named is really intuitive in my opinion.
loved the fact that if you just press the buttons, it looks like you're doing something cool the entire time. Downtime seemed negligible, and it feels fast, it plays fast, it looks cool as hell, and I get the
does.
feeling that that's really what most people care about. Is it fun, you know? I mean, just look at this thing.
It's fun.
It looks awesome.
Yeah.
It looks awesome, and that Lalafell looks even funnier. So definitely a job I'm gonna play.
I'm so
I absolutely
glad.
love it.
I'm so glad.
Also, for those of you who are curious
It's
to see
fun.
what a Lalafell looks like,
Everyone agrees.
the limit breaks. Here you go.
Did I forget to check limit break? I did. Oh my god, I completely forgot. I completely forgot. So look at the limit break. I don't care about that limit break that
Okay,
much.
let's talk Pictomancer.
It's fine.
I think this is actually explained really well by Yoshida and team during the live letter. For simplicity's sake, I tried to make my layout similar to his in the video.
Okay.
Just, easier for me to understand. You've got your 3 canvases, in my case, from left to right, weapon, creature, and landscape. Now, upon looking at the footage, I realized that actually the canvases are creature, weapon, landscape. Look, it seemed simpler at the time. Anyway, using creature will create parts for your creature that you can then unleash on the enemy. Weapon will give you a bunch of melee hammer attacks, and landscape will give you access to a party-wide damage buff to anyone in it. The landscape also triggers the Rainbow Bright enhancement, which allows you to cast Rainbow Drip, that sort of line of rainbows and flowers spell, instantly. At least I think that's what triggers it. I
Yes.
feel like that's what triggers it.
That's
I'll be
right.
honest. I don't quite remember,
You got
but I'm
it.
pretty sure that's what it does.
You got it.
But that's not all. You got a whole other set of things to do besides paint on the canvas. Starting at my button number 4, you've got Ether Hue attacks, which are the single target Fire in Red or the AoE Fire 2 in Red, that then become Arrow and then become Water. When you execute all 3 in order, you'll get some palette gauge with white paint. And you can use that white paint
This
to
one
execute Holy in White, or you can turn the paint black, which will then allow you to use Blizzard and Cyan, or Blizzard 2 for AoE, Stone, and then Thunder, ending with Comet in black. The thing to me of interest in this moment was trying to figure out exactly what spells you had to stand still to cast and what spells you kind of run around with. The hammer, for example, being one that you can run around with and just attack and keep pressing the button, and it looks pretty fun. But Fire in Red, for example, you had to stand still. And that's kind of one of the issues I had with the job, is it has the components of Red Mage and the components of Black Mage, in that it seems fast in some places, but then slower in others, and I do not respond well to Black Mage at all. It's just one of those things that I've never clicked with. And I know many people who say Black Mage is awesome, Jesse, you're stupid. And that's fine, it's all preference anyway. But coming off of Viper, it felt pretty slow. The biggest question I have for
it definitely feels a much more methodical and slower in general than Viper. But nothing's gonna be compared to Viper. Everything's gonna feel slow, I feel like.
those who are going to deep dive this one, when do I choose to use canvas abilities versus my normal white and black magic attacks? If I'm in the middle of combat, it seems like
This is the big thing that I also had a big question about.
canvas slows everything down. So is it just an opener? What do I do there? Because sometimes I was just like, it's so much easier just to cast spells than to wait for the whole painting thing. I guess I'll end up watching a video or two on this, but that's my thoughts on the 2 jobs. And now, important questions with Yoshi-P.
Final Fantasy XIV is known for some really interesting rain mechanics and some very fun boss fights.
It's interesting how he formatted this interview,
that
because it's
are
like
more of
spliced
a
up
dance
between
than
his impressions of the tour.
actual combat, moving around, avoiding various mechanics. And I saw on Twitter that Soken had commented that the video game Alan Wake 2 had a very good fight music number. What is the chance that we will one day see a full-on dance battle in Final Fantasy XIV?
Dance
どうなんだろ
battle.
うな、ダンスに限らないんですけど、ちょっと最近
I feel like
まあ
every
僕
fight is a
まあ
dance
チームにも
battle
話してるし
because I play
最近プレイヤー
dancer.
の皆さんにもより
So
なんだろう、こうエキサイトメントを高めていきたいっていう話をしてると思うんですけど、まあダンスバトルかどうかはちょっと置いとい
God,
て。
I just remember playing Red Mage in
とはいえ
this
最
fight
近ちょっとギミッ
and
クが
constantly
どっかで見
flipping
た
off the
もの
edge.
だったり
Like you have to
なんか応用
stand
したものが
right on the lip
ちょっと
of
多い
this
なと
circle in
感
the
じている
middle
ので
if you
改
want
め
to
ていろんなアイデア、
not
いろんなチャレン
flip
ジをバトルメ
backflip
カニクスに入
off.
れていきたい、コンテンツメカニクスに入れていきたいという思いは今すごく強いです。
And it might not
Red mages
necessarily
know.
be limited to dancing and whatnot, but we do want to deliver more excitement for the players whenever they do battle content, encounter content.
She's so quiet.
I don't know if it'll necessarily be a dance battle.
I've already turned it up.
But we have seen, as of late, many battle encounters where the mechanics seem very similar from one another. So we want to change that up a little bit. We want to look at how we approach battle mechanics, say bringing in more unique ideas to our content.
Seems like he danced around that question. Little
まあ
bit.
その中に
Like, no, you're not getting a dance battle,
なんか
but
特定
we
のエ
can
モ
make
ー
the
トをしないと
battle feel
その
more
解除
like
できないデバフとか
a
でも
dance.
怒られるのかなやっぱ
I might get yelled at for saying this, but like for example, maybe like during a battle, you'd have to perform a certain emote in order to be freed for some kind of tether or something.
だってさバト
That
ルの最中
sounds. It could be fun, or it could be cursed.
にさ
Forced to blow kiss.
紳士の前をやらなきゃダメだって言うとそんなもん持ってねえよみたいな人がね
Forced
いたら
to
クリアできない
smack
し
the boss on the ass.
Like say, well, you have to perform the gentleman's dance during a battle. Like, what if you haven't obtained that emote yet? You know, people
This
might
is so
not like
silly.
that.
This is so
いやで
silly.
もそれぐらい一回もっ
silly.
と開発チームはこれまでの経験を生かすっていうところはもちろんなんだけどもっともっと自由でもっともっと面白いメカニクスギミックっていうのをチャレンジしていこうぜまあ時にはそのやりすぎてプレイヤーの皆さんが怒られることがあるかもしれないけどよりもっと我々がプレイヤーの皆さんが想像つかないような
Yeah,
バトルメカニクス
that
やコンテン
sounds
ツを作っていくことが結局はプレイヤーの皆さんが
It
楽
would
しむ要
probably have
素
to
になって
be a
いくと
duty
思うし工
action,
夫するよ
but we had to do. Didn't we do that in this reminds me of
なってくると
Lakshmi.
思うからそこはもっと自由に
Well, she doesn't make you
行こうぜって
dance, but she
話を
like
してるから
seduces you.
いろいろ変えていきたいところではあります
But that said, Yoshida has been talking with the development team to encourage them to bring in new ideas and try to introduce fun or interesting mechanics where the players will have to do a little bit of thinking
I remember the safety dance from Nax
and trying to figure out
long ago. Jesus Christ, how many years ago is that?
how to sort of
God.
process the mechanics that are thrown at them.
Was that Nax or was that ICC? I think it was Nax.
And we may make
It was
something
next.
that is a little too unusual that players might not like it, but I think we want to
Yeah.
go
God, I
back
feel really old.
and try to introduce mechanics that players might not expect,
Yes, Huygen.
or have them
The bun
try
clean.
to discuss one amongst the party members to see what they can do to figure out the mechanics, to enjoy the different battle content, so that it's not just the mundane. Yoshida also wants to encourage the developers
2005.
to make sure that
That was almost 20 years ago.
they are free to create something interesting. And so the desire it definitely is strong to bring something new and refreshing to our players.
まあその中でダンスバトルのアイデアが出てきたら
It's weird that the first thing I thought was, man, I hope I live a long time so I can keep gaming for like. I'm thinking, man, I've been gaming for a really long time. I hope I can keep doing it for a long. I'm thinking like, okay, that was 20 years ago. So how many more years I got?
実装されるかもしれないしただその時に一番なんていうのショックを受けるのはコミュニティチームなんじゃないかと
I'm not 42. No.
And say, for
Not in my
example, one of the
40s.
developers did come up with an idea that seems to look like a dance battle, and we might try to implement something like that. I think that people who might be shocked to see something like that might be the community team.
なぜかっていうと
Community team
ファ
would
ン
be
フェ
shocked
ス
by
の
the
ステー
dance
ジで
battle.
そこからこのダンスバトルコミュニティチームでやってよってあいつ無茶を言い出しそうな気がするから
The reason is Soken might take a look at that sort of dance battle and tell the community team that, next Fan Fest, you guys are going to do that on stage.
Oh yeah, I bet.
もう待ってこうなって
Oh, no, that's how you say it.
I'm probably dreading it because I don't know if you guys have seen the video from the twinning meme dance video. But the community team learned this meme dance and did it at FanFest. And this dance is not easy. I personally have tried to do the twinning dance and I learned it by watching them, but it is hard. Like, and they did an incredible job. So they clearly practiced a long time. Like, do I need to pull this up? Kind of, yeah. They did such a good job, and it's worth, yeah, it's worth showing. It's worth showing. Can you see that? I just mute. Oh, I hid my camera. Oh, okay. Just look. Look. This is the community team that trained to do this dance. They just stand there. To perfection, they trained for this. Well. Crazy. Crazy. Not only that, they did the facial expressions at the beginning too, where they're like grim, right? And then the dance starts and they're super happy. They acted it as well. Like, I tried to learn it. Yes. Actual chads. They each got a solo part. It's hard. Like, I don't know if you've done any dancing, but it's a lot harder than it looks. It's exhausting. Yes. It is such a good job. I'll never forget it. Actual meme lords. So that was it. Amazing. So that's why in this interview, where were we? Okay, yeah, that's why in this interview, Yoshi-P is like, I think the community team will be scared because then they're going to find out they got to learn another dance. That's what he's laughing about.
Speaking of fight mechanics and things, we also got to run the first dungeon, like I mentioned earlier. And even though I had every opportunity to play with other people at the event, I really wanted to do the duty version with our favorite characters.
To play with other people? What other people did you have an opportunity to play with, Jesse?
Oh, for
maybe those other people were busy eating nachos.
the lore. While I have no real information about our motivations for being here, we are clearly in a race with our Malmuja competition and what I assume relates to everyone vying for the throne in this expansion. But we'll get more into that in a minute. I ran this twice, once as a Viper, once as a Picto, and I enjoyed Viper a whole lot more, and so we're going to use that footage mostly. Also, Kryle's a Picto, and it was hard for me video-wise to tell what I was casting versus what she was casting because effects were going off everywhere, and that's how I'm justifying me using Viper. You're also joined by, besides Kryle, Alphano, and Waklamat.
From what I've seen in the media tour.
Suppose Alice could be on your team, but I checked before coming in, and it only let me pick these three. So maybe it's a DPS thing if I tried something different? No clue. Anyway, I'm going to jump around a lot in here, mostly for time reasons. Also, spoilers for this dungeon. If it's not your vibe, skip ahead to the next timestamp for the interview. But we start here with the old moving platform where enemies come to you, and that's a thing 14's been doing a lot since Endwalker, and I love it. No complaints here. Super fun. The result is a clash with the other boat at the end.
Other boat. Yes, come closer. We have something for you. See you upriver if you make it that far. No, their boat
forcing us to have to walk right into the first boss. Look at this big boy. I love him so much.
Me too. He was really cute. But why is he so mad?
For
These
first
are called
dungeon, first boss fight, it's
punity?
fairly simple. He really just plops around a lot, except for this one ability
flops
where he
on you.
sucks in everything and then spits it out. And now you have to dodge trees and debris, and the whole ground is yellow, and you're running around like a crazy person. It's a dick move, but it's really cool looking.
This is fun. It's so fun to see other people's reactions to the dungeons and things. So you never know what people are gonna like. What's gonna stand out in their
Oh, look,
mind.
they brought their whole family. That's fun. Babies. The mechanic here, it took me a minute to figure out, as
The
you can see, but
babies.
basically, it's going to plop down on you, and I feel like the best strat here is to run directly under the one that's targeting you.
Yeah.
So it just jumps straight up and then straight down, and if they're in all four corners, it should be easy to avoid
Correct.
hitting other people.
Jesse, let's do ultimate. Jesse. Let's do DSR. Come on. Let's do it. Ultimate. Jesse and OK Mage.
As you continue on, you move further into the jungle, into some caves, using more of the ladder mechanics that they keep introducing. I think that's kind of cute. Little ladder climbing scene. But it's up here at the top that we get our first big story moment. And a clue of what exactly is going on here, because you aren't just racing Team Mamuja, you're also racing Team Dad.
Team Dad! Because Orion, Thancred, and Koana. Now
I think that's
what
really
I'm gonna
neat because it means that by Dungeon 1, we're already
Team Dad.
well into the teams are divided. And everyone has their own motivations for what they're doing, and I have no idea what those are. Very eager to find out. But also up here, I really like these slimes. They turn in to your party, and at first I was like, oh, they're color-coded to the different types of jobs you can be, either DPS or tank or healer, except blue, we're Kryle and I, and we're DPS, so
Yeah, maybe not.
I don't know. Maybe the slimes are just stupid. They ain't got no brains, the slimes.
That's the wrong color.
Boss number 2 is
Jesse's so
Drowsy,
funny.
and if Drowsy isn't a mount by the end of this, I'm gonna be so upset. However, Drowsy's much cuter than they are dangerous because ability-wise, pretty limited. Summons tendrils, then a group of slimes, and
It is
then a few
easy.
cone attacks, but that's really it. It was a pretty easy fight. I mean, it's a beautiful fight in a beautiful room, but not particularly hard.
Not hard. But we need the mount, I agree, for Drowsy. I see he's stuck on Viper most of the time. Oh. I think Viper's gonna be a real crowd pleaser job. Yeah, maybe it'll be a mount drop from the dungeon. I would love for them to bring that
The final
back.
boss of the dungeon is Apollyon, which I don't really know if it's a reference to another enemy in Final Fantasy lore, but there is definitely a zone or area in Final Fantasy XI called that.
Oh, really?
Let me know in the comments. This one I don't really want to spoil too much, but just to give you the rundown, as the fight goes on, different animals that this thing's been feasting on will jump out and try to get revenge. Then Apollyon will attack them and feast on their bodies. I'm not sure if there's a way to stop this,
It's an
but when it
FF9.
kills them, Apollyon's attacks become strengthened, in this case,
I couldn't tell any way to stop this.
wing beats.
Yeah, and I was a little sad because I thought, oh, that's cool if you don't do something, then the boss gets stronger. But as far as I can tell, there was no way to prevent. Maybe I'm wrong, but I think he will do it no matter what.
And then the next one here strengthens its scything forearms.
Like Ravana, forearm. Up.
The fight pretty much goes on like this, with each new strength giving it a series of attacks before something else jumps in and takes advantage of the fight. I don't want to spoil too much of it, and definitely not the ending, but it's fun. Overall, compared to the Tower of Zot and Endwalker, which was the first dungeon there, where I watched a lot of people die, I think this dungeon's difficulty is significantly less than that one. That's really all I wanted to share about the dungeon with the time that we had. I enjoyed it, and hopefully you will too.
I love Tower of Zot though. But it's probably because I play Dancer.
Now,
So there's lots of
extremely
movement.
important questions with Yoshi-P.
Hello, Yoshida. It's me, Ben Starr, your
Ben
best
Starr.
friend and sometime
It's Ben Starr!
employee. Now, I've got a very important question.
You
from
said
me, from Jesse, from everyone in the Final Fantasy community. Now, 2 years ago, Jesse asked you when Lalafels will be able to ride other players like mounts.
No!
I see no evidence of this, sir. Boss. When
Really?
and how are you going to finally correct this injustice?
He really.
Lalafels deserve to ride other people like mounts. Imagine them.
Piggyback crying.
Make it happen, boss. Make it happen for me.
That was such a serious plea too.
I see.
Make it happen for me, boss.
ララフェルがね、他の種族にね、プレイヤーにマウントするっていうやつね。
I cannot. The mad lad brought it up again. Not only did he bring it up again, but he got Ben Starr to relay the message this time, even more heartfelt. Because if you don't know, in the previous media tour, Jesse Cox asked Yoshi-P if he could let Lalafels take, use other players as mounts, as like a little backpack. Like you can piggyback ride on other people.
まあグラフィックス
I think it's safe to say that we as a community stand firm with Jesse Cox and Ben Starr in this heartfelt plea.
アップデートしたからいけるかもしれんね。
Well, we have started our graphics update, so could we see potential based on that?
でもその場合にはもう一個多分考えなきゃいけないのがキャラクターオプションの中にララフェルが乗ってもいいかどうかっていうチェックボックスが必要だよね。俺の背中にはララフェルが乗ってもいいかっていうチェックボックスがつけないと。
I hope so.
We
I hope
also have to think about consent. So will we have to add a checkbox for character creation screen? I will
Oh, that's true. That's so nice.
consent to having a Lalafell.
Do you consent to, like, maybe in my character configuration settings, I can set it so that, yes, I approve any Lalafell that wants a piggyback ride. I will freely give that anytime.
だってそうじゃないとね、もうこれ
Give me the yeet
持
option.
ってきてうざいってなる
We
から
don't want to have random players being bothered by Lalafell
That's
suddenly
true.
mounting.
それか
Yeah, did you think about that, Jesse? Did
ト
you
レー
think
ドシ
about-
ステムのように
Yeah, you think
ララフェルが乗っても乗りたい
there's
って言っ
terms
て
of
ます
service
いい
for
ですか
Lalafels
みたい
that we
な
need to
Or maybe we'll have
draft.
it set up like the trade system. We'll have a dialogue that pops up that says,
Oh, my
Lalafell
face.
wants to that. Yes or no?
Sorry.
まあでもここまでヒントを出せば開発チーム本気で考えるかもしれないからな
That said, I think by us talking about it and providing them with hints, that might spur our developers to come up with solutions.
一つお願いがあって
There's one thing
Lalafell
we want to
fashion accessory.
このジェシーのビデオが流れたら世界中でララフェルが乗るのはありかなしかっていう議論がめっちゃ起こると思うのでそのコミュニティのフィードバックはちゃんと見ておいてね
So once this video goes live, and people will probably start discussions on Lalafell.
Hashtag let Lalas ride. Oh my
mounting other
god.
characters, yes or no, and like a heated debate. We would love for you to follow that conversation and report back to us what your findings are.
Oh, I will.
Jesse asking
Now
the
comes the part
hard-hitting
that
questions.
I was hinting at a little bit ago, and I've been waiting for 40 minutes to talk to you about. With the
Okay.
time we had remaining, I wanted to talk about my exploration and the things I discovered that were of interest.
Wow, that's beautiful. Oh my god, look.
And to me, what I think is
Wow.
interesting are potentially huge world building and lore hints. while flying around and exploring the 2 zones we had access
Yeah,
to.
there's big scratch marks on that mountain.
Specifically, or Kapacha, or
Yeah,
your
that's
Kapacha.
true. Here too, it's like something. It looks almost like something crawled out and escaped. You know, doesn't. Or is that just me? Yeah, it's probably nothing. Yeah, it's probably just a natural rock formation.
Noticed 2 interesting details. One, this incredibly obvious giant molten gash in the world. These 3
No, it's a natural rock.
claw-like rips in the
No.
cliffside. I'm gonna slow down the footage here because at
wouldn't
first
worry
I thought,
about
yeah, okay, some sort of like maybe dragon claw mark. But then I noticed the angle, and it clearly hits the outer cliffs first, then the one behind, which to me seems more like some sort of ranged attack or like
What?
Mega Alta Slice or something. Could it be from this guy, the Eliminator? I don't know. I have no answers. Just put it out there to you. Maybe you'll come up with something cooler
No.
than me.
Because
But that's the oh neat kind of world building. I am expecting next level theory crafting from all of you on this. I found it in a nearby cave. I was trying to get
Nuking God, thank you for the $3. Hey, appreciate it.
into a beautiful valley, and this was the entrance, and within it, dare I say, was some Emmett Selk reveal energy. As you can see from this first carving, there's some figure lighting the way or guiding some race that I'm not really sure of, but they look like orcs from Final Fantasy XI.
Who can decipher the ancient prophecy?
I tried to get closer to get some more detail, but the more I zoomed in, the more pixelated it.
All I see is sabatenders. Here, it looks like sabatender, like gigatenders all around. Is this alpacas? What does it mean?
became, and this is as close as I could get to at least leave it somewhat readable. The next carving seems more water themed, or at least bluer, with the figure in the middle who kind of looks like Kenicha Hao. It's the Mayan deity of the sun. I'm no expert, but I have been to Chichen Itza and that was pretty cool, so I'm guessing that's either a platform in the middle or a boat or something, and those are gates in the
Do you have a
background,
white
I
beard?
guess. Honestly, no clue.
That's
Then we have this
way too dank.
interesting looking image with a bearded figure overlooking a massive tower structure or city while giant birds surround him, and then there are two eyes crying tears on the people below. So
What the hell? What? This looks like pockets. Like, this looks like a bunch of little pockets to put things. And people are praying here for the rain. They're praying for the rain. And then over here, it looks like people who dead, maybe, or asleep. What in the heck? It seems like a drought. Like there was a drought and it sucked. It was hot. Maybe it's like, this is heat.
that's the thing. And this last one appears to just be a very happy sun shining down on a city that's on a mountain with lizards.
Oh, is this like the story of how the Tuliolol was founded and how everybody started working together?
Maybe this is the birth of our new main city. If anything, it just looks like a Mario level to me, but
Yeah, it kinda does.
Again, I have no clue what any of these are.
It kinda does.
I feel like the big takeaway from this is that they are in some way linked to the origins of the new world.
Yeah.
And going back to something Yoshida said during the group interview, he was asked what are some quests or raids or dungeons that could prepare us for this expansion story-wise. And after he let out a very long you can see the gears sort of turning in his head. He said two things. One, do Myths of the Realm, the
Yeah.
new Alliance raid series from Endwalker.
And the Q&A.
And two, do you remember all of the names of the Convocation of 14? And that was it. It was cryptic enough to really mean anything, but it got everyone in the room being like,
Everyone
what the
was-
hell does that mean? And I kept thinking, because could these major figures in this art be the 12 at work in the New World? Is that dude with the giant hammer Bayergot? Could
Is the dude with the giant hammer Bayergot?
any of these other figures be other members of the 12? Or
I
is this some
wonder.
form of members of the Convocation, right? Like maybe this city that kind of has a pseudo Solution 9 vibe to it that I am really stretching for right now. Maybe that's something. Honestly, I don't know. It could be a mix of both. Who knows? I have no clue. That's what he told us, and now I'm obsessed with those two things, and I can't wait to figure out in what way he thought they associated.
Yeah.
It's definitely going to be something on my mind as the expansion draws nearer, which, by the way, is
the
June 28th
llamas.
for the pre-order players. And that's me. I cannot wait. I got my earring. It's actually
Alpacas.
totally useless when everything's level 90, but I don't care. I'm excited to see where
They're
this
so
goes and
fluffy.
what our characters get up to. I'm excited to share it all with you. So thank you to the Final Fantasy XIV team for letting me play a bit early, and thank you for watching. It's awesome that you made it this far in, and thank you for sticking
It was a
around for
fun
my
video.
weird theories and crazy questions. Here's hoping the next couple weeks go by very quickly, and
I'm sure they
I will
will.
see you in the new world.
Wow, that was a really fun video. Even though I definitely feel like I got called out a little bit. It was really enjoyable. It's always fun. That's why these videos are so fun to watch, because you never know what someone else is going to really pay attention to that you didn't. So even though we went to the same media tour, we had access to the same build, he had a completely different experience, and he looked at things that I wouldn't have even thought to look at, like these wall murals, which is super cool. And seeing his reaction to the dungeon was really wholesome. And of course, seeing all of his questions to Yoshi-P, even bringing back the Lalafell thing again. So really great, awesome video. Yes, he's super funny and nice person. I'm really glad we got to spend a little time together at the media tour.